Yo, what's going on, everybody? Yeah, we're back, and you know what day of the week it is, okay? You already know what day of the week it is. It is officially Tie Fridays. So we came to talk to you guys how to close a deal. Are you trying to figure out how to close a deal? And by close a deal, I mean how to find a deal, how to secure the deal, how to lock up the seller, and how to get it to the closing table and everything in between. Well, stay tuned. We're going to give you guys a little bit of advice, but we got a special guest in the building today, Mr. Ty, Cashflow Ty Friday, dude. What you got going on, man?
Hey man, I'm just happy to be here, man. It's always good to be able to chop it up with you guys on the Fridays, man, or whatever you guys can have me. So man, I'm
Yeah,
loving it here, man. Especially the talk we just had before we got on. So man, it was
yeah,
solid. And yeah,
sure. Absolutely, man. And so, yeah, we were definitely chopping it up and just kind of really analyzing just some solitary thoughts on like getting an aerial view on the business and what it takes to go forward. So, but my guy Jay said I'm in the dialer. What up, y'all? Listen, I told you I got Jade in the dialer, man. Just I'm talking about Jade is definition of relentless.
yeah,
Jade is one of them guys, dude. I'm talking about just going to take the action and kind of to the point of what we was talking about is they know the results. As long, especially if you get with the right people,
yeah,
then being able to just turn up your marketing budget and just having a marketing budget and investing it into marketing, it's just like a lot of people, that's a huge leap mentally when you first getting started to say, hey, I'm going to spend some money on this, and this. And you're like, dude, if I just spend all this money, then what's going to happen to me? Like, what's going to happen to the money? It
yeah,
ain't guaranteed. But once you get to a people performing at a certain level, at the far end of the spectrum, um, are not even questioning it. They're not even second guessing the marketing budget and how to do that. We
right,
got my guy Richie Rich in the building, man. Shout out to Rich. We
yeah,
talk about Jade and we talk about Richard a lot. These are two guys who implement strong characteristics of a 10x individual. And they both have their own qualities, which I really appreciate. Jade is going to take action, and a lot of action. Richard is going to take action, and I think Richard just no, I don't know, man. Richard, I don't know, dude. Richard, we haven't talked. How if you've read any books or anything like that in particular that have helped shape your mindset, but Richard almost got like a natural mindset for success in the sense that he knows how to reach out to people, connect with people, establish a natural rapport that kind of it allows him to will himself into a situation. So Richard implements loads of qualities of a successful 10x individual. Um, I'm working too, Jay. Yeah, man. Hey, I'm working. We working.
yeah. We working. Yeah,
We working for sure, man. We want y'all to see what we got going on. Um, hey, don't Richard. I think I'm dyslexic too, and I'm not even being funny. Like I talked to a seller one time, and he was just explaining to me how dyslexia is actually a spectrum, and I was just like, and he started explaining his dyslexia, and I was just like, I might be there. Like you guys have no. Oh, the worst thing is like when I'm looking at a list of numbers and I gotta call them all, dude. Or when you guys like this real talk. I've never mentioned this to you, both Richard and Jade, and they'll be like, I'm like, hey, send me the lead information over. They're like, oh, I'll screenshot it and send it. I'm like, bro, just send me the phone number because now I gotta try to read the phone number and type it. That's like trying to ride a bike uphill. But I was cool in school. I was like an A B honor roll student. You know what I mean? I just can't. I think I have dyslexia, man.
yeah.
He said, but
I'm
I
I'm the same way though. When somebody telling me something, or I'm driving, my mom's trying to give me information. Like, nah, just text it to me or
nah.
write it down or something, man.
When
I
I'm
ain't trying to
just
drive, do this at the same time. Or like today, I was driving and I seen a contractor truck, like a
yeah,
pickup truck that had the
yeah,
phone number and all that stuff in it. So I'm taking a picture and I sent it to my wife, and she's like, "Why you ain't sending it to the We have like I guess she's curated a note thing that we're both collaborating to, and I didn't know anything about it. She's like, "When you send it?" I'm like, "Cause I'm driving and I didn't even know about it, and then it's easy for me just to share it to the text message, and then you can do it because you're at the house." You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Absolutely, dude. But I'm talking about when I'm just sitting down, like I'm just right here, like I'm just looking at it. I'm like, man, This is gonna take me a minute. I gotta slow all the way down. Like, okay, 706, 706, 706, 888. I'm like, dude, it's but we getting through it.
Yeah.
As soon as I get my next lead, I know who I'm calling, and it
And
ain't
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbuster. Yeah, dude. Um, but what me and Ty was talking about is just investing, just talking about like really, again, we want to talk about how to close a deal. What are some things you have to do to close a deal? The first thing you need to do to close a deal is generate leads that could turn into a deal at the end of the day. And I'm pretty sure the reason why they're called leads is because these could lead to a deal.
Yeah. Leads to me are like seeds. Because in order to get a fruit or in order to get a plant, I mean a vegetable or something, you have to plant the seeds and harvest them.
Yeah.
Harvest them is like doing your follow up, just going through. So it ain't like you're going to, plant a seed today and tomorrow the flower's gonna bloom or whatever's gonna bloom tomorrow, the fruit. It's just gonna be like it's just for that pipeline to build up. Eventually, that will eventually turn to a deal. It may be next week, it may be next year, it could be 3 years down the line. I'm sure you've done a deal before that you had the
Yeah.
lead 4 years ago, and then it popped up like, "Hey, I'm ready to sell." That offer still good,
Dude, it's been a lead. Like, I remember there was one deal I closed, and it was like we was talking to him for 2 years. 2 years just talking to him. And so, yeah, they're definitely like seeds. But there also have been leads where it's just like first conversation, first time you get them on the phone, we lock them up and we end up closing on that deal. There have been leads where I never even got them on the phone, just text them and we locked, you know what I'm saying? So absolutely, it's about, but I know for sure the name of the game is generating leads and generating a lot of leads in order to, to make sure that you always got that traction. That's the thing that the big dogs have learned. We Ty and I were talking, and I gave an example of how it's like this. The you when you're running a marathon, when you're running in a race or a marathon, and marathons hold like hundreds of people sometimes. Like this is multiple people. It's not just 10 people in the race. It's like 100 people or more. And you might be the first, the number one guy. You might be dead last. Or you might be somewhere in the middle. If you're somewhere in the middle, you can see who's in front of you. You can see who's behind you within a certain range. But when you get to talking with people and the big, in this business, when you get to interviewing people and just having conversation, you get a chance to see what are you doing that's working. Ty, what are you doing? Hey, Byron, what are you doing that's working? And then you get to watch an interview with like a Grant Cardone, and he's telling you this is how his business operates. A Mark Spain or Gary Keller or somebody operating at a high level, and you get to peel back the layers of their business. And then you get to talk to some brand new people and see how their mind's working. It's like you're in the race, you're in the marathon, and you get to take a step out from just what you can see and get an aerial view and see, okay, the guy that's in first place, what's he doing?
right?
What's his pace? How many steps per minute? What's his heart rate per minute? So on and so forth. What's going on? You get to kind of peel back. When you get to talk to those guys, you can see, okay, I'm like in 99th place, and before that means there's 98 people between me and the first place guy, and I don't know how many people between me and the last place guy. But what's the last place guy doing?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you get to see what to do and what not to do when you start to get that aerial view on the business. And I know that the guys who are in first place, these multi-billionaire guys, they know generate a lot of leads. You want a lot of seeds. You want to be a farmer. Like imagine if the farmer only planted like 10 seeds. You would just get like, you'd be nobody would eat. You know what I
Right.
mean? So he got to account for crops that are going to go bad, crops that are going to come in fruitful, so on and so forth. But Ty, what are some things that you've noticed that you feel help you? And I'm sure you've had some conversation with some bigger guys, or maybe even watched some interviews or read some books. What are some things that you say? Okay, one thing, the patterns that you notice, like
Yeah.
all the bigger guys do these things.
Yeah. Now, one thing I do know is the consistency with always marketing. So that's the thing I see what the bigger guys do.
Yeah,
They
yeah, yeah, yeah.
always consistently market. And then I
Yeah.
see the guys that are like wishy-washy or don't do it. They market every now and then. They market when they may have a little extra money. They market when they feel like it.
Mm,
Those guys I know because I've done that. I've done stuff when I felt like, or done stuff when I might have just didn't want to spend the money, and I seen the results of that. And then I seen what I've like we've gotten like this thing is consistent, and it's like when we do the consistent stuff, you get the consistent results over time because you're steady on it. You're steady, and it's like the same way with everything else. Like when we think about what we was talking about, like that people marketing more than others, it kind of goes along with anything you're doing in life. Like I think about like a person like LeBron. LeBron's like almost 40, if he's not 40 yet. But they say he spent like $1 million on his body every year.
yeah, that's a good point.
So that tells you about like somebody like LeBron. He spends $1 million because he understands that he's getting older. And he may not be able to move like that 22-year-old that just got drafted. Now he may be skillfully better than him, but as far as being able to keep up with him, that's just how it is at times. So he's able to keep up with them guys and still be as great as far as his ability versus someone that that doesn't do it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I don't know what Tom Brady did either, because when you see his body, he doesn't look like his body is like someone that would be, but his agility and everything he's able to do as far as like his endurance.
Yeah.
Same thing for Mayweather. The endurance is
Yeah.
something they're doing that being able to keep going. I'm assuming it's those little things that we don't get to see behind closed doors versus when you see, the glitter and the glamour and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think you just to that point, you really highlighted an important piece is because we always say consistency and we like consistency is key because you want to be consistent in everything you're doing, but consistently marketing in particular, that is, if we talk about the one thing that you can do that'll make everything else in the business like either easier or not necessary, consistently generating leads. So constantly casting your net out. If you're not a professional fisherman, if you're not the best, if you don't know, if you don't have all the bait, but if you consistently throwing your line out there or consistently casting your net out there, then you're going to have a whole lot better chance of the guy with all the fancy bells and whistles who's, 1 foot in, 1 foot out sometimes when it's convenient. You hit the gas for just long enough, and then when you don't see it, you let off the gas and be like, man, I need to go do something else. I need to go somewhere else. It's like,
Yeah.
nah, you need to go harder in this direction. And
Mhm.
so to your point, I think maybe those guys like a Floyd Mayweather are like they're consistently spending that money and investing. It's just like a lot of the videos for a good period of time, as far as I would say maybe like celebrities go, anytime I saw anything to do with Floyd Mayweather, he was in the gym.
Yeah.
Anything. Like I mean, like it could be just an interview of just him talking. He was in the gym and doing the interview at the same time.
Right.
Oh, he talking trash about 50 Cent. They arguing, they going back and forth.
Right. But
He's in the gym arguing with 50 Cent, talking trash. It's
right.
like that was for anything. So he was consistently um RJ Bates. I'm trying to beat RJ Bates one day in the closer Olympics. On me. Hey, you gotta beat me, homie.
Yeah.
Bump RJ Bates. Come
Yeah.
on now. We
Hey,
like,
you hit that RJ Bates like Soldier Boy. Drake.
yeah, man, come on, man.
Yeah.
RJ Bates. Hey, yeah, dude. Man, come on.
Drake.
But yeah, dude, I think it is about that consistent and just realizing that is the biggest difference. And so notice if you notice the consistency, but between all the people who are not as successful, all of them kind of sort of market and like I was telling Ty, because I was talking to a real estate agent and I was just explaining to him that a lot I'll ask like new lower tier. I don't say lower tier because I don't want to knock. These are even successful real estate agents by every measurement in my book. These are people who are consistently doing deals and they may be, making 6 figures a year, 100,000, 200,000 a year. But I was talking to a guy that nets $1 million a year, right? And so he gave me his playbook. What this one real estate agent makes a year, he spends that on his marketing. But that one real estate agent, I asked them what they do, and they're like, "Oh, just tell all your friends and family, and then take them out to coffee and be nice to everybody that you see in the grocery store. And if you're having dinner, stop and talk to them." I'm like, okay. However, that's not scalable, and that is not net $1 million a year talk, right? So it's just like I can ask my buddy who's a lot like to fight, or like, yo, what you do? You know what I'm saying? Oh, bro, you gotta work on your ones and twos. Yeah, yeah, for sure. But then you ask Floyd, hey Floyd, what's this? He like, dude, not only do you need to fight, you need to be spending X amount of money on your trainer. You gonna need to leave the gym, have a budget of the food coming to you, and this and that. Some things that the average Joe wouldn't think about.
Mhm.
So we tend to be like, man, oh, he can do that because he's Floyd. He's Floyd because he does that.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Plain and simple.
Yeah. It make crazy. He say, man, yeah, you got to run like 15 miles a day.
Yeah.
15 miles. I don't know if he runs 15 miles, but that sounds like.
Bet he does.
He'd be like, hey, 15 miles a day. It's like, dang, I ain't.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like, and that's one thing too, just as a caveat. I was thinking this because after I got off the phone with that real estate agent, I was like, I was asking him, and I feel like some of them be hesitant to tell me. He wasn't. Like some of those guys that like do like 100,000 a year or something like that, they'd be like, I think that they're telling me this whole like, oh, go over here and do this and just talk to your friends and family, because there's nothing wrong with that. And you see, we implement that. That's something you should do, but that's not all you should do. Not by any means at all. And even Floyd does the basics. Even Tom Brady does the basics, but that's his foundation. And then there's more on top of that. You got to leave the foundation, and so or build on it. But those guys, I noticed they are like almost kind of afraid to tell me. There's like it's a secret.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't want to tell them. Like,
yes.
But this guy,
a lot of times I remember I was talking to a buddy the other day, and I was telling him about something I was doing. I think it had something to do with it had something to do with what I was doing in the truck and how I was able to get more loads or something like that. And he was like, man, don't tell nobody about that. I was like, man, people ain't gonna do the stuff I'm doing.
that's
Like I do stuff like
yeah,
there's things I do. I'll do like my normal loads, but I know how to like call, because I know how to, like, when I get to a yard, I can see there's certain loads on the loaded side that need to be picked up or something, right? After I drop one. So I know how to call to be like, hey, there's these 3 trailers here. Do they need to come back to Georgia with me? See what I'm saying? Most people ain't gonna do that because it's like you gotta call, wait like 15 minutes while they pick the phone up. So if I can go ahead and see what's there and write down what's there, I know I can call and get that extra. And let's say I do this every single day. That's an extra load every single day, which can be an extra $200-300 every day on top of whatever else I'm doing. So when I'm doing that, it's like I know most people aren't gonna go the extra mile to wait 15 minutes for one just to pick up the call. Well, it takes me 15 minutes to drop the load I'm bringing in. So by the time that load's dropped, I'm still on hold. I got my Bluetooth on, so I'm walking, doing my thing. They pick up the phone. Hey, this is Robert. And I go through my, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 about what I need to do. And they be like, yeah, this needs to be picked up. Nobody's assigned to it yet. Hey, it's yours.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
It's a little extra. But most people aren't going to put in the work that it takes to do that, even if you give them all the game most of the time anyway.
You can give it to him. The dude, he readily gave it to me. And he gave it to me because I can tell he was passionate about it. I could tell it was something that he worked on. And you got to understand, when people do this, he was a professional. When people do this, he's providing so much value to the community. He's created a current, a flow of value to him. And I'm like, dude, anybody who's watching this, have you ever been to McDonald's? Has anybody ever had a double cheeseburger, a Big Mac from McDonald's? Yeah. Have any of you said, okay, after you ate that burger, you was like, all right, I'm about to go start my own McDonald's. I'm about to go start my own burger restaurant. No, you didn't. It's not even a secret. They give it, or go work at McDonald's. They tell you how to make it. This amount of ketchup, this amount of mustard, this amount of onions. I ain't never worked at McDonald's, but I know that that's a big part of McDonald's whole system, is they have every little detail planned out. And you could go work there at McDonald's. And none of them workers is just like, I'm about to start the company that's going to put McDonald's out of business. No.
Right.
So it's just like, no, that's why we share. We tell you exactly what we're doing. PPL, cold calling, how to talk to the sellers, and so on and so forth. So again, how to close a deal, all of that is underpins generating leads. That's the first thing that you need to know. And then from there, if you figure out how to generate leads, once you figure out how to generate leads and you can do it consistently, then you can fail at closing the deal as many times as you need to get it right. Right?
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, you ever go to like the batting cages? I am not a baseball dude. I ain't never played baseball. And if I go to the batting cages, it's going to take me a minute to hit it. But if I had unlimited swings, if they was going to keep sending them baseballs out at whatever miles per hour and I had unlimited amounts to hit it, I'm going to hit something. and
Yeah.
I'm gonna crack something. Something's gonna get cracked. So you got to consider like generating leads is how you get to everything else. That's the everything else to it. Like that's one thing. Actually, I like baseball because the whole play doesn't start until somebody hits the ball.
Right.
Like everything is set up from there. And so the pitch is the leads. And then when you hit it, that's getting a closed deal. And then everything else starts to fall into place. Then
Right.
you can load up the bases. Then you could get more home runs. Then you could get people out, so on and so forth. But
Yeah.
so what are some things, we always talk about it when Ty is on, mindset wise, some things that you notice about those, the Floyd Mayweathers, about the Kobe Bryants and the LeBron James, mindset wise, that you feel like we're gonna go both up far into the spectrum. That you feel like a Kobe Bryant, like, dang, this is where he at. And then my cousin Jamal, who think he hoop because he play at the rec. Like, what are some things that you just like so far into the spectrum? It's like, dude, you need to get this. If I
Yeah.
could help you get this, I'm trying to work on getting there. I'm
Yeah.
trying to work on getting to the Kobe Bryant mindset. But I know he doesn't even know he need to get there. Like, what were connect the dots for somebody who's at the far end?
Yeah. Like I had to learn. I had to get to that point where I started reading. When I started reading and learning how to when I started because before people be like, once you get out of high school, you don't even think about picking. You didn't even pick up the books when you was in school. So when you get out, like I ain't about to read a book. I didn't even know they were like actual self help books out there until like a
Yeah,
couple years
that's
after I got to high school. And I think the
yeah,
first one, I think I kept hearing I kept hearing like rappers talk about the Millionaire Next Door book back in the day. Like Ti, I heard him talking about it like
yeah.
way back in the day. And I was like, maybe if I read that book, I could help me become a millionaire or something. I don't know. I heard this from Ti, I heard it from Bun B, I heard from these different people. This one book, that's the first one I think it was either that one or Think and Grow Rich. Just one of those two that I read first. And once I read that first one, and then what it did in my mind, I was like, dang. I started searching for books. And from that point on, that started growing my mindset. But another thing is your surroundings. Like,
Mm,
imagine like me being around you, being around Byron, seeing Keith Dunn, like seeing how you guys like interact and y'all mindset and how y'all think about things is a whole lot different when you like out here by yourself, or either
yeah,
you kind of don't know how this thing works and you like trying to do it on your own. So your mind, you be thinking like, oh yeah, I caught like 10 people today. Like I said, like you did 10 dials a day. So you thinking like you don't know if that's
yeah,
you get around somebody talking about, oh, I did 1,000 dials today, and you be like, 1,000, or you hear somebody. I remember when Byron was doing he was doing a call with I forgot the one dude name, but he said the dude said that he marketed to like 200,000 people a month. And I remember I repeated that to somebody else that was in wholesale, and they was like, nah, he probably doing maybe like 20,000. I'm like, nah, he said 200,000.
yeah. Nah.
Because I know what Byron was doing at the time. So I was like, when Byron was like, when he said 200,000, I knew Byron was doing like them kind of numbers. I was like, nah, these people doing 200,000 a
yeah,
month. I started thinking about like, we doing 6 to 10,000 a day, 5 days a week. Start doing it. I was like, wait a minute, about 50,000, 100,000. I started going through the weeks. I'm like, oh yeah, about 200,000. Yep.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So I
yeah,
started realizing that like it's a mindset because it's like, you know what I mean? You just got to go, you got to do what everybody else ain't doing. And you got to be willing to like go all in and
yeah,
focus and not be kind of like wishy-washy to like, I'm gonna kind of do this, but I'm also gonna be doing this and I'm also gonna be doing that. So you're not even focused on where you're really trying to go at here. You gotta really, if you really want to, get them crazy results, you gotta be all in. You know what I'm saying? And make sacrifices. That's another thing. That's another part of mindset. Sacrifices. Like you can't be like, you know, I don't feel like doing this today and then not do it. And then that next day happens. And then next thing you know, you've only market one day out of 2 weeks. You're gonna no wonder it's not gonna work.
yeah, dude. Yeah, that's 100%, dude. I mean, you touched on some like just some killer stuff because I remember I think it was the year so 2020. It was the year that COVID hit. At the top of that year, I think no, in 2019, I think I had read one book cover to cover, maybe two, but I think I had only actually started and finished one book, and it was Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, the same guy who wrote like the Narnia series. He wrote a book called Mere Christianity, and I really liked that book. But I was just like, dude, I only read one book. I didn't, at the top of 2020, I said, I'm going to read 52 books. There's a book a week. I'm going to read, these books. Um, by the end of that year, COVID had happened. I had started uh, going more in depth into wholesaling and trying to do more deals and stuff like that. I didn't read 52 books, but I think I read like 26 or 27, like down the middle. I think I was down the middle.
Mhm.
And that's so far from going from one book to, what I mean. And so that taught me, I became a voracious reader and just consuming. One of the 10X principle is always to be continuously learning. That's
Mhm.
what Warren Buffett talks about. That's what Elon Musk will tell you about. That's what Grant Cardone, of course. That's what Alex Hermosi would talk about. All of if the guy at the front, the first place, second place, third place, and fourth place runner in the marathon is telling you, oh, we all read marathon books, and you all the way back at 100th place, and you like, there's a marathon book. I didn't even know that they had those books.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
read any of them. Then read the book. You know what I'm
Read the
saying?
book. Yeah, you need to
So,
read the book. If the four big dogs are reading that book, you need to read the book.
yeah, exactly. So it's just like you need to read that book or just be a reader. Like it's a very powerful that you become a reader and just constantly be educating yourself. Reading, you guys are here, you go on the live, you're tuned in with us, and connecting with people. And another thing you said is your environment changes your perspective. 1000%. And I was just trying to tell my guy Sid this, and that's what I was trying to explain it. But you said it better than I was able to explain it to him. But essentially, it's like at the point at one point I was talking to him. I was like, man, I'm trying to push past my limits. I'm trying to go. I'm trying to push past my limits. But my limits weren't my limits. They were limits that I was superimposing on myself that were really limiting beliefs. I'm like, I'm trying to push past my limit. And so you gotta be careful who you compete with. Don't compete, only compete with yourself, but you need to be around people who are far ahead of you to challenge your idea of your limits. Because I'm like, man, you might be like, man, I'm gonna do 2 deals a month. I'm gonna push myself to do 3 deals a month. While I was just doing 1 deal a month. But you could be doing 100 deals a month. There's no reason why you couldn't.
Right.
When you talk to these big hedge fund companies like a Wedgwood, in a given market that they're in, they're buying 100 deals a month in a given market. So that means every market that they're in across the country, this company could be closing 1,000 deals a month or more every month, not every year, not annually, not every decade, every month. So what that tells me is possible. Obviously, they have teams, systems, and processes in place and Wall Street money to back them. However, it's possible.
Still
So
possible.
you take, your limitations are superimposed on you, but when you change your environment and you get in these different environments, then you get like, oh, I need to change things. Like, oh, I'm
Right.
cold calling. I'm thinking I'm doing something by doing this. Nah, dude, you need to be doing way more, way
Right.
more.
Yeah.
That's way more. And to the point just about sacrifices, and you don't consider, like, you might not even consider that. I remember when I first got started. Speaking of, Jay says, bro, I ain't even hit 30 leads yet and already got more results than I first anticipated. Because Jay, you teamed up with the right people
Mhm.
and you took 10x action. Jay took action. I'm talking about
Okay.
action after action after action. But speaking of what you didn't anticipate from the beginning, I honestly, I romanticized this. I said, these are my goals, these are my dreams. I'm going to do it and it's going to come to me. I romanticized it like it was going to be easy because it's my passion. It's going to be like when you watch a movie, the main character, he's just sitting there and life happens to him or her. The movie happens to them. But in reality, when you wanted something to happen, you got to go make it happen. And so I didn't realize that I was going to have to sacrifice the stuff that I sacrificed or gave up. But you realize it's just like once you get there, it's like if this is who I am, this is what I want to do, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
And so be willing to make those sacrifices. Like Jay, go to work, get off work, and then be in a dialer or calling leads or following up or calling me or calling the buyers or calling, title companies or whatever, just trying to reach out to people. And so you gotta be willing to sacrifice, be willing to change your environment to put you in a different mindset, to open up what's really possible for you.
Yeah.
Right? Because in your mind, you got a narrative of this is how things are supposed to be. This is how things are supposed to go until you get around the right people who can change that. But Jay said, do y'all ever notice a dry period during the month when it comes to PPL, but then an influx of leads come in at the end of the month? Dude, yeah. So the reason why, Jay, unless you're the highest bidder in these counties, you're not going to be getting first dibs on these leads.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're going to notice is if you take our strategy and our method, which I'm pretty sure that's what Jade's doing, if I'm not mistaken, is Jade is doing what we do. And we just kind of set the bid where we want it, set it and forget it, or we set them lower, or we set them as low as we possibly can. Set it wherever you want or low or whatever. You don't have to compete with the highest bid, but we're going to set them low. But that means if I set it low, that means I'm not going to start getting leads until all of the other higher bidders are out. You know what I'm saying? Whether at the end of the day, once they've turned it off, like, you know, from a certain hour to a certain hour in the morning, they'll turn it off because their office is closed. They got traditional office hours. Or at the end of the week, like on the weekends, which is why we always say, Jade, be ready, because today and tomorrow and the next day, that's when they start to come in, by the way. Mm-hmm. Or at the end of the month, which is a big one, is when a lot of these companies, they ran out of their marketing budget. You know how you set your marketing budget when you go on these, and I'm just talking to Jade here, but you set your marketing budget, the amount you want to spend. And a lot of these companies get to the end of that rope and then bow, there go Jade, there go Cordero, there goes Ty, Byron, the people who set their bid low. So yeah, that's what you're going to notice that. We definitely noticed that, Jade. That's a good observation. But yeah, man, I think another thing to consider when it comes to how to close a deal is focus. I would say just focus on doing, you know, not missing any steps. Like look it in, like play football and you catch the ball, they tell you to look the ball in, meaning don't get fancy. When you see the ball coming, don't look away from it and say, all right, I got that in the bag. I'm going to catch that. Let me think about what my next step is going to be after I catch it. No, look the ball in, catch it, and then quickly think about what your next move is going to be. Because I was telling Jade this earlier too, because he's got another deal that we're closing, is there's an order of operations. And I just kind of like, we're going to take the first things first. Once you get the lead in, you don't need to be talking about, okay, you know, all right, now we got the lead. We need to send a contract. First, we need to see if the lead is going to even answer the phone. Okay. Yeah. Let's look up, or what most people do is like, oh, the lead came in. Let me look up the property. Let me see where it's at. Let me try to do the numbers. Let me run comps and then I'll call them. Call them because you could do all of that and then they don't even answer. First things first, get them on the horn. Mm-hmm. So get them on the phone. Then once they answer, you feel like, oh, we got a deal. I need to call the buyer. You need to get if you feel like the numbers make sense, you need to get the seller locked up. And there ain't nothing else that you need to be doing other than getting the seller locked up right now. Get them under contract, work around their schedule, explaining to them the steps in the process and the purchase agreement and how it benefits them. Get them to sign. Boom. Now you got them to sign. And the next thing you need to do is to get the buyer. And whether that's setting up an appointment to get the buyer in there, which, I mean, we do send a nod to the buyer. Like I might shoot them over a text message and be like, hey, I got the deal coming down the pipeline or whatever. But I just mean like they're at all levels, all steps. It's like there's priority that you need to take. I just hate when hear my phone notification and they text me and just to tell me you have been outbid in such and such county. I'd be thinking I got a new lead. Yeah, or when they tell you, oh, here go a new lead opportunity that you could buy. I'm like, what? In a county that I'm not even in or something like that. I'm like, I'm not there. I don't need that. Or I'm like, I'm not even in that. No, I mean, I don't even know what that is.
Is that property leads that's doing that?
All of them do that actually.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Sell My House Fast be doing that to me. I think, well, I don't know if Lead Zolo does it, but I know Need to Sell My House Fast be doing that to me too. I'm like, but I just mean when it comes to closing the deal, look the deal in is what I say. First things first, take care of, I bet you Property Leads does this, what Jaden's talking about. That's probably property leads doing like, oh, you've been outbid in such and such county. That's just a marketing ploy to get you to start bidding more and paying them more money. So every time you get outbid, they're like, hey, that's like them saying, me personally, I wouldn't take that disrespect. They're
Yeah.
instigating you to bid more, like an
Yeah.
auctioneer. You know what I mean? So don't fall for that. That's what you guys are describing, Jade and Rich.
The
Uh,
bait.
they're baiting you in to pay more. Set it and forget it, dude. Just it don't even matter. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You get to it. But so I would say look it in, and things like that. But dude, I mean, we really hit y'all with a couple good mindset attributes today.
Mm-hmm.
Things to consider heavily. When it comes to closing the deal, we talked a lot about generating leads, and you need to turn up whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Turn it up, because at all levels of the business, you're going to be doing different things, such as you might be doing bandit signs now, but in a year, several years down the road, you might be trying to turn up your billboards. But regardless, just getting one or just putting out one bandit sign is not going to do you well. Just making a
Yeah.
couple of cold calls is not going to do you well. You really need to be able to turn it up. And then again, consider the order of operations. First things first, and just stick to what you need now.
Yeah.
And so that's as far as closing deal. But the mindset stuff, you hit us with a couple good things today, dude.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, this goes along with the mindset thing too, have a problem with, let's say somebody does a deal, it could be their first deal or whatever, and they get their first, decent money, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes if you ain't used to it, or if you really tight with the money, it's hard to like make a quick $5,000-$10,000 and put that, and then want to put that back in market, especially if, like, let's say you spent maybe $1,000 marketing,
Yeah,
and then
dude.
you make 10,000. It's like, man, it's like in your mind, it's like, man, I don't want to, if I want to spend more money, it's like,
I didn't have this 10,000 before. I just got it.
I just got it. It's like, man, I want to. You start thinking about all the stuff you want to buy with it. You start like, man, I could spend 2,000, 3,000 on marketing, or I could spend 2,000, 3,000 on a watch or some clothes or whatever, right? And you're like, man, at least I can see my clothes, but I might
Yeah.
not get another deal very soon. Now you gotta be willing to spend that money. If you believe in what you're doing and you think this is something that you can, grow, scale into the future. You see people online, you see us all day long. You see people that actually are doing things. It's like, man, spend that money on the marketing.
Yeah.
But go all the way. Don't spend the money on the marketing and then don't go in. That's the problem. People spend the money on marketing, but don't actually go into it. They just throw it out thinking it's just gonna come to them. Like, no, you gotta work. You still gotta work the
Yeah.
lead.
Just
You
like
gotta
planting,
work it.
you gotta nourish the seed. You gotta plant a lot of seeds and do a lot of work to nourish it, for sure. Man, that is such a good point, Ty. Or what a lot of people do is they're like, man, I just got this 10,000. I didn't have a bank account, and they like having the cushion in their bank account. That's something I can look at my phone and check every day, and that makes me feel comfortable. And if I spend this money again, then I'm back to where I started, and it's going to feel like I'm taking 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. It's going to feel like that. But
Yeah.
what you forget is that if it worked for you to get here, if you put 1,000 in to get 10,000 back, then if you put 5,000 in, by that number, by that ratio, you should put 5,000 in and get 50,000 back. But most people, when they close that first deal or get that first lead, your next thought is, man, I'm about to buy this, or dude.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, put it back into marketing and put it back into education. If your first deal is a 30 piece, you need to figure out, okay, how did I get to this deal? And let me reverse engineer it and invest more into that of money and time. And I guess I should say, find some sort of program that you feel that works and buy into it. It don't even got to be me or Byron or us. It doesn't even have to be that. Just find something that you believe in that's going to work and that's proven, and then invest into it. Because once you buy that education, now you figure out, how can I spend my money in the right way, and how can I put the energy in the right way to almost guarantee, or make me feel a lot more confident that I'm going to get a return on it and it's going to come back to me. So that way, when you do that, don't think, okay, I'm going to get this money and spend it. And you do that, you invest more into your marketing and then more into your education, because now you got the money to do it. Then after you start getting more money from there, then you can start spending that money. But
Yeah.
the first deal I think a lot of us made that mistake. I made that mistake. Ty, I'm sure you've been there. Like
Yeah, I've been there. Been there
that's
with trucking, real estate, no matter what. It's like when you get that bag and you see it,
yeah,
you see it in the account. That's the thing. You see it there. It's like, dang.
yeah,
And then it's like it's hard to just kind of go there and then put, even double down on it. It's hard to double down on
yeah,
what you're doing. But that's the thing, being around people and you see them do that, you see them like go in. Like I remember Byron. Byron was like, he made that, he he doubled down and then made a big 60 or 70 the next month. And then start doing 100, 100, 100. When you start hearing stuff like that, you're like, dang. Like
yeah.
imagine yourself with that 100, 100, 100. Like,
Yeah, but imagine if he just like don't eat your seeds, is what I
yeah,
heard somebody say. It's like because when you get it, you just because you will plant seed and the first seed you plant, it'll give you more seeds to
mhm,
plant. That's really what or the first crop you harvest, you can either go blow that bag or you can go buy more seeds and
mhm,
more water and more nourishment or more land.
yeah,
And then once you reinvest enough times, then you could take it and say, okay, now I'm gonna start spending that money. But if you spend the money now, you're eating your seeds, you're
yeah,
eating your future. Every dollar that you spend today is $1,000 from your future.
yeah,
Consider that. And so if you spend $50 today, that's $50,000 tomorrow because that $50 you could have did a lot with. If you spend $200 today, that's $200,000 tomorrow because that $200 could have bought you a lead that got you a $30,000 deal, and that $30,000 deal could have bought you more leads, and that would have slippery slope ripple effect would have turned into a $200,000 and more and more and more depending on how you work it. So consider that when you get these first deals, it's not about okay, now it's time to go blow the bag. Now it's about how do I reinvest to solidify the foundation. Consider yourself lucky almost. I don't even acknowledge luck because you had to even do something to get here.
yeah,
But just think about it like this. Consider yourself a lucky person. And if you and what you got in your hand, if you don't take the necessary steps to solidify it, that luck will run away just like that money. Because that money gonna go.
yeah,
If you don't start investing in your education or strengthening the relationships that you have with the people you're working with that got you the first deal, or buying more leads, or just do what you did. If you don't do that, if you have the presence of mind to do that, then you're gonna be out of here, man. That was such an excellent point.
right. Hey,
That
since we're
was
getting on mindset tonight, and before we get up out of here, you
yes,
got a
sir.
mindset book that you would recommend to anybody that's watching this for them to check out that you feel like, kind of helped you?
A mindset book. I'm gonna try to go one that we haven't talked about. Uh, that we have not talked about. That we haven't talked about. Oh, if you don't mind. If you don't mind. Hmm. Because we can go a couple different ways with this, honestly. Uh, man, that is such a good. Okay, there's a book, and this is honestly, it's not one of my up there ones. You know what? I'm gonna take it in a different direction. There's a
Okay.
book called "The Body Keeps the Score," and you know what? It's heavy because it's a book that talks about depression. It's a book that talks about, um, I think it was written by one of the doctors because before we come up with all of these labels about diseases such as depression, PTSD, ADHD, there was a period in human history where that wasn't a term. It wasn't an identified existing disease, ailment, illness. People just had it and they lived their life and they had it. And nobody was like, oh, that guy. There was a guy who fought in Roman Catholic wars. David Goggins never finished. Yeah, yeah, man, that's absolutely a good one. There was a guy who fought in the Crusades thousands of years ago and had to go back home after the war was over and suffer from PTSD. But nobody was like, oh, he's got PTSD. He would just like had to assimilate back in society. So these things come, and this was written by one of the doctors who was at the forefront of the PTSD study and research, right? And so a couple things, I had gone through the book just once, so I don't really remember a lot of stuff about it, but there's some key points that stuck with me. The point is the body keeps score, meaning that when you experience trauma, when you experience things, they last with you for longer than you think, and they stick with you in different ways than you think. Meaning, like if somebody was like, maybe you had an abusive childhood, like you might be able to see it on their face, the intensity in their face and their nerves, and how one trigger can bring them back to that moment. And the only reason why I bring this up is because honestly, depending on your experience, depending on how things go for you, looking back on these, nothing is too small. A lot of stuff you experience as an entrepreneur can be traumatic. A lot of stuff that you go through, a lot of even like getting in the bag and then messing it up and then realize. One thing I learned from that book was that one of the biggest things about trauma that people don't talk about is when I have trauma, it's my role in it. That like if I was in a car accident, and that could be a really traumatic experience, the part where that's probably the most traumatic is the fact that I realized I was at fault. I was going a little bit too fast, or at a blink of an eye, I wasn't paying attention. I took my eye off the road. Yeah, that car was stopped and they weren't supposed to stop her. That car turned, and it's technically their fault as far as the insurance claim is concerned. But I still played a role in that, and I should have been more alert. And so little things like that. So consider that when you consider yourself in a real estate career or in your entrepreneurship journey, and you go chase the bag and you get the bag and then you mess up the bag by spinning it too early or something like that, or spinning it on something like that, and that sticks with you. And he talks about the body keeps score, the mindset behind people who have trauma, the studies, and then kind of things to do to pull yours. It just, for me, it gave me ideas on how I could pull myself out of that, or what things were actually weighing myself down that I never thought of as trauma or fear that held me back. And so the more I kind of educated myself on how trauma works, and it's not just the things that we think of, like, oh, I got beat as a kid, or I experienced this aggressive act of aggression or violence. No, it could be something as like, oh, I was in the dialer for hours and hours and hours, and it felt like abuse. I mean, I talk about the dialer all the time, but I mean, that actually is a form of trauma, or dealing with that, or having the fear, or whatever. But once you are aware of that, and you can kind of embrace it and understand it a lot more and how it weighs on you, then you can kind of see it for what it is, and you can push past that. You know what I mean? You can really push past that. So that's why I was like, I can take it in that direction, because that's a book I've never really shared, and I've never said it in the context of business. But one thing I just want you to know is, like, if you've been in business for yourself for a while, and you can look back on some just like terrible moments that you do not want to go back through, that is trauma, and you're dealing with it. But if you know that about yourself, then you can say, okay, well, maybe I just need to talk about it. Maybe I need to communicate with myself more about it, and just be open with, like, man, that was tough. I don't want to go back there. And so now I need to embrace it, and I need to embrace it and kind of move past it. Anyone here ever had imposter syndrome? Or, well, I'm gonna just call it anxiety after their business started actually picking up momentum and steadily growing. Yeah, dude, if you got into a NASCAR, if you got into a Bugatti, it sounds cool. But once you start going 200 miles per hour, you're going to be thinking any mistake I make at 200 miles per hour is the last thing I do.
Yeah.
It's not like if I'm driving 30 or shoot, even if you're driving 50 miles per hour, you know what I mean? That's terrible. And that could be the last thing you do, but you might be able to walk away with it. But the 200 miles per hour in the Bugatti, something that you've never done before, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, for sure. And so that's just a good point, CEO, is just kind of thinking about things like that, and thinking like,
yeah, the imposter syndrome, that's a real thing right there. And it can, I know so many people, and so many more people you wouldn't even think about, like, can go through that a lot. Like, I mean, most people go through that at one point in time.
Yeah. Most people go through that, but I think I've heard like a lot of people talk about the imposter syndrome. It's just like, it's because you're not being transparent. I mean, there's a couple of reasons why.
Right.
I think one of them is just like I know it's self-inflicted.
Yeah.
This, and you're talking to somebody like I really felt this for a long time until one of my mentors, she was just like, it's the imposter. I told her, and she's got like a PhD. She invests in real estate, but she's got like a PhD in economics and stuff like that. She was like, oh, that's just the imposter syndrome. I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
It was self-inflicted though. It was just like
Exactly.
because I was trying to. And so again, that's why I say the book was so powerful for me, because it helped me identify and observe a lot of the things that I was experiencing in this business. I was like, man, I need to work my way out of that and stop letting it hold me back and just be clear on what it is.
Yeah, that's how it feels when you go to. If anybody anybody's watching this and they see it, they go to their first real estate I guess meetup, and you
Yeah,
haven't done a deal, and you're around surrounded so many people and they're doing deals, they talking about what they got going on, man. Like you'll be over there in that corner, like feeling like you got imposter syndrome because you're surrounded by so many people who's been doing this thing you're getting into for a long time. But that's just normal. And that's the thing. Once you get into this thing and you start actually, like I said, applying, you start being consistent, you start just doing more, sacrificing your freedom, your fun time with doing this kind of stuff,
yeah,
you'll get more. And then, like I said, you'll eventually get over that hump of that thing where you haven't done a deal yet or you haven't got into it. Because your first deal may not be your deal on your own. You may be a part of someone else's deal,
yeah,
but you still are a part of it.
yeah.
And that should help. You know what I mean?
Dude, no, I mean, that's such a good point. It's when you go to one of those meetings and you feel like everybody's done deals here, and I feel like the imposter because I haven't done deal. You need to realize again, it's self-inflicted. You're not an imposter because you're a first timer at this. You're actually doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
You're actually in the right place. And so you got to get out of it thinking like, oh, I need to be. You're comparing yourself to people and thinking, man, I need to be doing a deal. And you don't want people to know that you, or people to think about you in a certain light, because you see in your own head, like, I got the vision of me as success.
Yeah.
So I want to introduce people to me as a successful version of me. And I don't want to tell them I haven't gotten a deal, or I've done my first deal. I just haven't gotten a deal in a few months. And I don't even know how to say that. You know what I mean? I feel
right.
Once you get over the anxiety is fear about something that hasn't happened yet, and that might not ever happen.
False evidence appearing real.
You know what I mean? False evidence, that's fear in general, but anxiety is just like a fear about something that you don't even know is going to happen. You just made it all the way up. And so you have imposter syndrome is because you don't know how to articulate what it is and how to articulate yourself and say, hey guys, it's me, Cordero. I haven't done my first deal. I've never done a first deal. I'm here. I'm trying to get into it. You'd be surprised when you say that, how many of those people are like, oh man, we would love to help you because I've been right where you was at. But it take courage and stop trying to pretend. That's why I know a lot of guys that'll talk to me and they'll try to talk like, actually I'm the this and I'm going to give you advice and this. And then I've seen me do it before. How many deals have you done? Break them on the way down, because I'm like, dude, stop pretending like you're an expert on the matter. Just be real with where you at. And I had to learn that the hard way. And it took me a long time to and that's where you get, and that's where even just in actual practice of the business is stop trying to lie to the sellers and tell them you're the buyer. Just flat out tell them just like, hey, this is some value that I can provide. We work with investors and our investors are going to come look at your property. That took so much weight off of me. And again, that was almost like a traumatic thing. We're trying to figure out how to lie, and then fear about being caught in my lie and what would happen. And it took me back to like, when you get caught lying as a kid, if you in the house spankings, you're going to get spanked for sure.
Yeah.
If you
I know
get caught,
what you mean by that. Like when I figured that thing out, what y'all guys are doing with the, with saying that you work with the buyers, work with investors, it was like, it's being full transparent. It's like, man, look, oh no, I'm not the buyer. I just work, I work with a group of investors, and it's like so much weight because when you're trying to talk all fancy and stuff like you're Grant Cardone and you're coming in to buy the whole complex, that's really not, and you got to lie.
Yeah, it's fueling the imposter syndrome, and the imposter syndrome also comes when you're trying to balance it on multiple fronts. You go to the real estate meetings and be fake and try to act like you've done deals or you're just such an expert just because you think that's what you need to do to fit in. Right. And then when you go talk to your friends, because you've gone to the real estate meetings, you try to act like you're the expert with your friends, and you like, I can't tell them, I can't go home and tell my family I ain't done a real deal. But only person I could be honest with is me behind closed doors or trapped inside my head. It's like, dude, just start being real.
Yeah.
Start being honest to people. And
Right.
but it starts with being honest with yourself. And like, man, I haven't done a deal. Once you start saying it out loud, and that's what the book helped me do. After I identified it, I was like, let me start saying these things out loud. Okay,
Right.
why? What does it sound like if I just express this? Hey, I have not done a deal first, or it's been a while since I did my last deal. I'm trying to get back to it. Then you realize, oh, then you're gonna hear people like, oh, happened to me, and then this is what I did.
Yeah.
Oh, that happened to me that happened to me like 2 years into the business. I experienced the exact same thing you experienced.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of that comes from, we don't get taught communication. That's not a lesson in life. That's not a lesson in school that they teach you. I mean,
Right.
not in school. So a lot of time, that's why a book I recommend is The Art of Communication. It teaches you how to, dude, please get that. I've mentioned that book a lot. Please get The Art of Communication. I thought I was going to get that book and it was going to teach me how to talk to sellers and just communicate to the sellers and do sales more. But the book talks about 3 things, and I'm not even going to go deep into that. But one, before it talks about how to communicate with people, how do you communicate with yourself? Because I'm sure, Ty, you being a married man, there are times where like you frustrated or angry or sad, or you're experiencing some emotion and it just comes out as anger towards your partner. You're like, that ain't even what it was though. I'm so looking back on it, you can like, but if you have the ability to go within yourself and communicate, say, hey, yo, Ty, like you talking to you, hey, Ty, what are we experiencing here? What exactly is this? There's a difference between being angry and being frustrated. There's a difference between being mad and being sad.
Right.
There's a difference. And so, but most of us, we never take time to talk to ourselves to communicate that. So the book, Art of Communication, first talks about how you communicate with yourself. And then once you get it right, then I can easily go to my wife and say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm just frustrated. It's not you. I'm not mad at you. I'm frustrated at work. And I got all of this stress about what's going to happen with the bills next month. That conversation, she can receive you a lot better and a lot more complete and understand you more totally and fully if you can understand you. And how you expect her to understand you if you can't understand yourself.
Right.
Right. And so that's what the book talks about, is communicating with yourself, then communicating with others and with the right intention. And then it talks about communicating with your environment and being mindful of not just the people in your environment, but everything. Like I'm sitting at my desk, my chair is below me, this wall is behind me, the computer's here, you guys are here watching it with us. There's enough, being mindful of that is a powerful thing. And so we can mitigate like imposter syndrome and things like that. So take with that what you will. But this right here, Antonio, I'm gonna have to check that out. I just put that on my watch list. Originals by Adam Grant. Yeah. We'll put that on my watch list. But
I have a think. I think I have a think first. Some kind of Adam Grant. I have an Adam Grant book that I haven't finished. I started first chapter and it was good. I think it's called like Think First or Think something about thinking. He seems like a pretty good author, so I'm gonna definitely check that out too.
Yeah, Antonio, dude, saying you have anxiety, worried about talking to them the right way, bro. Hit me up on IG. If you haven't already, hit me up on IG, Cordero Martin 615, dude. And we can go over how you're talking to them, your game plan, your strategy. We got a couple of videos here, but that is a big part about it. But what I will say too is you're not going to get it right you got to fail. So don't be afraid to fail too. You know what I'm saying? You got to make mistakes. You got to make those mistakes to get it right. You know what I mean? Richard says, me for sure. I used to fake it till I made it. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. A lot of cats saying you got to fake it till you make it. It's just like, no, identify where you're at and embrace that. And it'll make it a lot easier for the people that you need to help you to embrace that.
Yeah.
I put a lot of stress on me, and it will.
Yeah,
and the moment that you can be clear, like, hey, if you dead broke, but you're trying to get to your next deal and you in a room full of millionaires, you think they ain't, even if they have never been broke, just be like, hey guys, I'm dead broke, but I'm willing to work. Because once you're very clear on the truth, once you get so clear, it's actually not as bad as you think.
Mm-hmm.
It actually sounds a lot better. Where you're at sounds a lot better. Hey guys, listen, I'm dead broke because of some mistakes that I made personally that got me here. I was I was not as committed. I was half-hearted in this, and I was a little bit lazy at times because I was fearful, and I put a lot of fear into what I did, and it got me here. But I'm committed, and I've at least stayed this course and stayed in this direction for long enough to get here, and I'm going to stay committed. So if you can offer me any advice on how I can start to dig my way out of this situation, I will be happy. That's what you, when you get to these meetings, just be transparent. When you really say it, that sounds a whole lot better than faking it and then
Yeah.
going back home and like, why do I feel like I'm being split in two?
Yeah.
Why is it
People
feel like
respect you so much more when you're like so authentic and honest about like yourself.
I'm,
Like, hey man, look, I'm kind of messed up right now. I'm kind of trying to learn this stuff. I don't have it. I'm trying to figure it out. That's why I'm here. I
yeah.
don't, instead of like, oh, you start trying to use all those big words that you don't heard somebody else saying. They be like, nobody says that stuff.
Nobody says that, and you honestly they spot it from a mile away. But even if they don't know it, they feel it. They're like something's off about this person, right? And so, absolutely, man, this was a good one though, Ty. We gave y'all an hour in this thing. We gave y'all an hour in this thing.
Yeah.
But if y'all got any questions, man, please hit me up on IG. If you got any questions, if you have anxiety like Antonio about talking to people, for sure, hit me up. Talking to the sellers, for sure.
Yeah.
I would love to help you out with that. And so reach out to us and reach out to Ty, Cashflow Ty. That's what
Yep.
it is.
Yep. Underscore cash flow tie. Yep. That's it. That's what it is. Underscore cash flow tie. Yep. And if anybody's watching this and y'all caught any of those books we said, which was
Yeah.
you said The Body to Keep Score
Yeah.
and The
The
Art of
art of
Communication,
yeah.
originals. Yeah, if any of those books, y'all get to check them out next week when we're on this thing. Let us know what you thought about them, if you got started on them, and all that good stuff. Because I'm definitely going to add all those to my list, and I'm probably going to start on The Art of Communication. Because I've heard you talk about
I was
this
about to
book
say,
multiple
start
times.
there.
Yeah, I'm gonna start there
Definitely.
because I've heard you in the Discord and the other times talk about that book, so I'm definitely gonna jump on that one.
It's a hard read. Honestly, it took me a couple times before I got it, like all the way. But everybody's, you can comprehend it a lot better than I can. But it's a book that I feel like it's worth reading. Like
Yeah.
one day when I find my partner who I'm going to be with, I'm going to say like, hey, we need to read this book together. There's a couple books we need to read. Obviously, we need to be in the Word and the Scriptures, and we need to take that seriously. But this is a book that I would consider. But yeah, we got a good one. We appreciate everybody for coming by. Cashflow Ty and Cordero Martin 615. Man, hit us up. Just let us know if y'all got any questions. Thank y'all. We'll be back at it next week.
All right, we out.
Back at